Sometimes I'm like, I'm just sitting here trying to understand my day-to-day life, and I'm sitting there with Eddie Bu coming up saying I shouldn't eat wraps and I should eat different like wholemeal bread instead. I'm like, mate, they're all made from the same goddamn thing. It doesn't matter how they're processed. The hate on processed stuff will forever be there.
Well, like supplements, because there's a guy, I can't remember these names, man. There's so many of them. There's a guy that said supplements are killing you. Like taking all these pills are not good for your body, not designed for the body. And then you've got literally Brian, the guy who's trying to live forever, taking like 50 supplements a day. Welcome to You Know What, the podcast for you that dispels the myths and BS in the fitness industry whilst leveling up your A game in everyday life. We are your hosts, Nick Finch and Dan King. Day of You Know What. Today we're going to talk about, is the food you're eating killing you?
Let's be real.
What do you reckon?
I think there's mass confusion, isn't there, on social media at the minute? Everyone's watching people like Eddie Bu, Paul Saldino, Gary Brecker, you know.
Gary Brecker's the guy who did the book, didn't he? Is that Keto guy?
Yeah. It's the keto guy and the guy that says that if you have blueberries, they're killing you.
Oh.
You know, he also says that cold water immersion is the best thing in the world.
There's so much confusion right now. Don't you agree? Like, isn't there so much confusion?
Oh, there is. I even as a coach, I sit there sometimes. I'm like, I'm just sitting here trying to understand my day-to-day life, and I'm sitting there with Eddie Bu coming up saying I shouldn't eat wraps and I should eat different like wholemeal bread instead. I'm like, mate, they're all made from the same goddamn thing. It doesn't matter how they're processed. The hate on processed stuff will forever be there.
Well, like supplements, because there's a guy, I can't remember these names, man. There's so many of them. There's a guy that said supplements are killing you. Like taking all these pills are not good for your body, not designed for the body. And then you've got literally Brian, the guy who's trying to live forever, taking like 50 supplements a day.
Oh, are you on about the guy who never ages?
Looks like a lizard, yeah.
Yeah. He's
taking 50 supplements at minimum a day.
And isn't his biological age like 24 or something like that?
Apparently, man, he looks like a lizard, man. But I mean, Brian, if you ever want to come on, no worries, man. I'm just being honest with you. But he does look a bit fucked, doesn't he?
But this is the weird thing, isn't it? Like, there's a lot of hate going on in the industry, and it's always going to come down to the same argument with these things. Look, there are foods out there that should be eaten in moderation. I was speaking to a client this morning about the obesity epidemic in America, and she was out in a holiday in Hawaii, and she said she sat down with a 16-year-old child who's definitely about 200 pounds. Like 16-year-old kid. You know, that's a heavy kid.
It's more than you.
Yeah, I know, it's heavier than me, man. I can't, unbelievable. And this kid definitely was like clinically obese, you know, and like, yes, there is a limit on what we should eat and what we should eat. But a lot of the people that are getting concerned are people that go and get a Mackey's probably once a month, and they're like, oh, I shouldn't buy a Mackey's. Yeah. Well, what did we do yesterday? We went and got a Five Guys milkshake.
I know. It was great.
It was fantastic. Did we enjoy it? Yes. And that's all the conversation needs to be about that.
No.
I'm not dead.
Hopefully,
I felt great.
Hopefully not.
What do you mean, hopefully not?
One of those guys that does those supermarket ones, he's going to be watching this and he's going to be like, you're going to die now, mate. You fucking always, from all these unsaturated fats, they're not good.
Do you not know what Five Guys cook their food in? I mean, of course we know what Five Guys cook their food in.
The plastic from the cup that you had it in is going to absolutely disintegrate into your bloodstream and kill you slowly over time. And it's like, oh.
Did you see something about people frying stuff in stainless steel woks?
No.
Like, it was about the metal getting into the food that you were cooking.
You mean the non-stick ones?
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah, I've heard of that.
Apparently, you shouldn't cook in non-stick pans. All right, guys, let's be honest. How many pans are you going to go for if you don't get non-stick pans? You're in trouble.
You know what I've seen?
What?
I saw a YouTube video and they were showing sharpening methods for knives to show you like what's the best way to sharpen your knife, and it would go into great detail, like microscope. That's the one. It'll microscope straight into with the knife edge, and you'll see like all these like grains in it, right? But as you sharpen a knife, these little bits of metal stick out, and if you don't wash your knife after you sharpened it and you cut something with it, you're putting all that metal into your food.
But it's such a minor amount of metal, isn't it?
But when you zoom in and you see it, it makes you panic. You're like, bloody hell, that's a lot of sharp metal shards.
Like, look, I've got a bit of a sniffly nose, so I do apologise.
Yeah.
You could literally zoom in on the mucus that comes out of my nose and think, my God, look at the amount of bacteria.
Nick's going to die now because he's going to take it.
Nick's going to die because he's about 2 meters away from Dan, who's got a sniffly nose.
There's going to be airflow diagrams where you see like the airflow.
You know what? They used to freak me out as a kid. They genuinely did. You know, let's go back onto food quickly because... Yep. There are people out there that are confusing the industry. What for you would be one big piece of advice for anyone trying to build on their diet and actually get a diet that works for them at the minute?
Focus on principles, not direct individual like issues. Principles such as your thermodynamics, so calories and macros first. Look at micronutrients, fibre, water. They're the main things, and then build your relationship with food over those. Don't look at any like keto, carnivore, vegan style before you understand those, because those are the most important.
One of the interesting things as well, Lane Norton spoke about this, and he speaks about the harm that people like Eddie Abu, he speaks about the harm that Eddie Abu and people like him are doing on the industry, and it's not necessarily like the wide scale stress that he can cause. He's also speaking about the individuals that, for example, there was a girl that got in touch with Lane Norton, and she was struggling even eating porridge and oats, and Eddie created a video like on this video saying porridge oats aren't good for you, and basically in this little text that she sent to Lane was basically stating that she suffers with an ED, and her ED basically is almost bulimia, so she doesn't eat certain foods because it makes her throw up. She's extremely skinny, and she was borderline dead, essentially. She needed food. She was so malnourished because she couldn't eat the foods because she was scared of eating them. And she started eating porridge again, and like all the doctors were like, "Oh my god, you're eating porridge again. That's amazing." But then she saw a video of Eddie talking about oats, and it made her stop eating porridge again. And then she loses the nutrition again, and she goes back into the state again. So she was thanking Lane for making a video on oats, breaking down the evidence that porridge oats are absolutely fine. There's nothing in them that's harmful. But this is what I mean, like how dangerous these kind of statements can be towards people. I know EDs can be like a small proportion, but it's still a person's life. And I think a lot of the time, the amount of good that someone talking about just calories is doing for people versus the negative of it. I've never heard someone turn around and say that they are really kind of in a bad way with calories, because all you say is, then well, stop tracking then. Yeah. Just stop tracking. Do your best to stop tracking and just look at food for what it is from a nutritional standpoint.
And tracking's a funny one, because like I think if you're going to transform your body quickly and efficiently and do it properly, tracking's really important. And even if you're someone that like doesn't want to track your food forever, I still think tracking it for a period of week to 2 weeks is still beneficial, because once you see, like for example, if you're saving for a holiday, you look at your bank account to see how much money you've got. You'd want to see what food's coming in, so then you can understand how your body's responding to the food you're coming in. Once you've done it for a period of time, it becomes second nature. It's easier to look at food and understand what it's going to do to your body. But it's, to be honest with you, I don't think, I've ever had an eating disorder. At least I wouldn't say I've ever had an eating disorder, and I wouldn't be able to relate to someone that has had one. However, I have heard it's a problem, and I'm always gobsmacked when I hear someone come to me saying I've had eating disorders in the past, because it's like, how food's food. It's enjoyable. It's fuel. How can you have an eating disorder?
See, now that's an interesting point to raise there, because I haven't had an eating disorder, but I have had a bad relationship with food, and it comes from when you start to want to gain mass. For anyone out there wanting to gain mass and gain some weight, gain some muscle, and look stronger, the big thing you struggle with is food volume. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with off the bat. I did when I was at uni. I didn't understand how much food I needed to eat. And I like to see like the calories as a tiering system for how big and strong you'll be. I will tell you right now, someone eating a 4,000 calorie diet of good nutritional food is most likely going to look strong, going to look muscular, compared to someone on a 2,000 calorie diet of non-nutritious foods. I'll tell you that now. 100%. And that's something you need to bear in mind, is that difference between the density of nutrients that you're getting in those two different diets. So I'm talking like for someone being on 2,000 calories. Okay, let me put this in perspective. Say their maintenance is 2,500 calories. They're on a 2,000 calorie diet that they're making sure that they're just eating McDonald's every day and getting a meal deal every day. And, they're not eating nutritionally dense foods and cooking for themselves. Put the flip side on that. Someone's in a 3,000 calorie diet in a 500 calorie surplus, but they're eating nutrient dense foods, high in protein, high in palatability, and high also in carbohydrates and good fats. They are most likely going to have a significantly better physique than what that person on 2,000 calories is restricting their diet. And this is so difficult to get into people's mindsets, because everyone thinks calorie deficit, I'm going to look lean, I'm going to look shredded. But actually on the flip side, I'm nearly at 4,000 calories a day and I'm the leanest I've ever looked. So you have to take into parameters like activity status, the nutrients you're getting from your food. I'm having about 250 grams of protein. So please, if you are ever worried about the volume of food, understand that your body needs it. Your body needs that extra bit of a surplus. And worst comes to worst, if you put on a little bit of fluff, you can get rid of a bit of fluff, aka fat.
Yeah, fat. And obviously, when it comes to is food killing you, yes, some foods are worse than others when it comes to nutrient like portfolio, for example. Yeah, like we all know inherently that wine gums are not going to be as good for you as a banana, right? That's obvious, because there's more nutrients in bananas than there are wine gums. However, if it's a part of a sustainable, routine, and you're trying to just do it so that you can stay healthy most of the time, and these wine gums will give you that little bit edge to continue with healthy food, then it can actually be beneficial. It means that you're more likely to stick to your diet in the long term, which is going to be better for you. So there are good foods and there are bad foods in terms of nutrient density. We're looking for nutrient density is the most important thing.
I think a lot of people talk about best diets as well, and I want to interject a point more on a mindset perspective here, that when people are looking for the best diets, they're typing in best diet for weight loss, best diet for muscle gain. It's the best diet that suits you and that you can put the best amount of effort in. And if you put maximum effort into a diet, you are most likely going to see results. Now, George Halas actually said a quote, and it was, nobody who's ever put their best in has ever regretted the results.
Yeah.
You've never done, because even if you do a diet, you're still going to see marginal gains, and those marginal gains you'll be proud of because of the mindset you were in pushing towards it, sitting there consistently on the calories you should be, pushing your protein up. Everyone knows I'm a big advocate for protein, and you just have to understand that the best diet for the person you're looking up for on social media is not necessarily the best diet for you, and you really need to bear that in mind. Just get inspiration from things that you do, which is why I did 50 grams of protein, because it's about inspiring people that there are foods out there that you can get high protein from, and you don't have to be stressed going into a supermarket being like, I need to buy a Trek bar that's 9 grams of protein and about 200 calories.
Yeah.
Apologies for interrupting the podcast today. Thank you so much for tuning into You Know What. We really appreciate you listening, subscribing, liking, and reviewing everything that we're doing. It's so nice to see so many of you interacting with our podcast as it grows. If you didn't already know, me and Nick have one of the fastest growing online coaching platforms on the planet, and we'd love to get you involved. We're looking for ambitious people looking to grow their careers and grow their experience in health and fitness. Me and Nick have over 10 years of working experience in the fitness industry, and we'd love to help you achieve the results that you've always wanted. Make sure to contact either Coach Dan King or Get Fit by Nick, or even just check the link in our bio to the podcast now. We'd love to hear from you.
And at the end of the day, like, I don't think there's anyone in this world that is going to know exactly for sure what foods or what type of diet is going to be optimal for you for longevity, because there are people in this world from all different walks of life. For example, there's people that saying that a high-fat diet is actually not good for you, and having carbs is actually very important. And then if you go to a place where Eskimos are, for example, their diet is largely fat, and it's largely protein, and there's very little carbs. So depending on where you are in the world, your diet can be adaptable to your specific genetics. So I think when it comes to selecting the perfect diet and whether it's going to kill you or it's going to make you healthier or whatever, it does come down to just adaptability. I think focusing on principles, focusing on pillars such as calorie intake, macronutrient, fiber, micronutrients. They're probably the most important things to think about, because they can apply to anything across the board when it comes to diet.
I'll tell you one thing there. You spoke about fiber. Now there's not actually that much information on fiber, and obviously people on social media are saying to cut out things like porridge oats. You're immediately reducing the amount of fiber intake in your diet. The average UK resident has under 10 grams of fiber a day, which is bad, because you do need to consume 20 grams of fiber plus per day to then get the absorption of all the nutrients through your esophagus and through your large intestines. Sorry, not your esophagus, through your large intestines. If you did it through your esophagus, that's interesting. Yeah. Through your large intestines, and it's one of the best ways to ensure the absorption, because you could be eating all the right food, but if you're not getting the fiber, you find the absorption rates are slightly lower. So an interesting point is some of the information out there may cause a hampering on that statistics like that these days, because people are so confused about what they're eating. They're cutting out things like oats. They're cutting out things like bread completely, which again contains fiber, because it binds it all together. And again, broccoli. There was something come out on broccoli being a bad food. We've known for years it's a superfood, and then someone's coming along saying it's got whatever they are, and isokinanes or something like that, isn't it?
Something carotenoid.
Basically, someone found a chemical and went, that's a scary name, let's put it on social media. And I hate these people so much.
Well, let's try and put this in a position, like, let's say they're watching this and you're trying to get through the confusion a little bit. Like, so what kind of diet should I be looking at? Like, we've all heard the less unprocessed the better, right? Just generally, because obviously added chemicals, added sweeteners, added stuff like that. Yeah, okay, a lot of it's safe for you to consume. However, let's just look at it in terms of whole foods, because whole foods are what the body's used to. You've grown up with, say, for example, potato versus cutting it into chips and frying it with trans fatty acid oils, okay? Your body's going to cope with it better in its raw form than it is if you were to do that. However, it doesn't mean you have to avoid those foods. You just need to look at most of your diet, 80% of your diet, and think, am I getting mainly most of my foods through whole foods? Because as you talk about fiber, there's two types of fiber. You've also got many different types of fats, different types of proteins, different types of carbs. And rather than confuse you with that, the best thing to do is look for variety, because there's a lot of different types of things, and it's going to take too much of your time and energy to think about it. So variety in whole foods, 80% of the time is good. And then allow yourself room for treats, snacks, crisps.
I agree. Like I was speaking to someone on the weekend, and it's a bad sentence I come out with, but I always come out with it. If I've ever got treats in the house, I feel like I shouldn't be eating them. And it's a horrible mindset to have, that actually by having those treats, it's not impacting my diet that much. It's just the assumption that by consuming those, it's immediately going to make me go off the rails. And that's the thing. Like I have said to clients in the past, I had someone with a real bad shortbread addiction. Like it genuinely, like they would get a whole pack of 12 shortbread and they would eat the whole thing in a day. Now, yes, when you come to that point in time, the amount of sugar you'll be consuming is not going to be what you want. So I said to him, try just having 2. Actually sit there and enjoy the shortbread, because the likelihood is if you're having biscuits, you're scoffing about 6 of them in about 5 minutes, and you're not tasting it.
If it's in my kitchen, I have to eat the whole pack.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it might have been all or nothing thing, but if I've got something bad, or sorry, let's say I've got something
less nutritionally dense
in my kitchen, like say a whole pack of French fancies, for example, I should just have 2. But my logic is, if I have it in my house the next day, I get into a habit where I'm eating that kind of food every day. So I rather have it all in once. It's not the best thing, I would say. I would say probably having 2 a day is better, but I would eat it all, so the next day I don't have it at all. And so then I'm back on track with everything.
I tell you what, old school ice buns, they're my kryptonite. Oh. If I get ice buns or some kind of croissant, then...
What about cinnamon bun with icing on it?
Cinnamon buns.
No sultanas though.
I genuinely want to know your guys' opinion. If you were going to go for a less nutritionally dense option, shall we say,
good.
What would you go for? What would genuinely be? What would your choice? Okay, here's a question: croissant or a pain au chocolat?
Croissant.
A croissant.
Well, the fact that pain au chocolats were called dead hedgehogs in a Halloween party I went to, I would say the croissant.
What?
Yeah.
Pain au chocolats were called dead hedgehogs.
When I was a kid, we had a Halloween party, and everything had a theme, and the pain au chocolats were called dead hedgehogs because it was the 2 little legs and 2 little arms. You know, like the 2 little chocolate insertion points. It scared me, basically. So now I have to have croissant only. Thank you for that childhood trauma.
I'd go pain au chocolat, but then they talk about the variety of a croissant. Sorry, it was just an interesting debating point.
The cookies at Dock House, Southampton, are incredible, by the way.
Get yourself cookies.
So if you're in Southampton Ocean Village and you want to go to get some nice cookies...
What was it, Kinder Bueno cookie?
Mate, they're incredible.
I've got a more interesting one, though. Yeah. Sweet potato versus normal potatoes.
I mean, I do like sweet potatoes, to be fair, and, you know... In terms of the health benefits, I did read once about its health benefits compared to potatoes, but potato actually has nutrients in it that sweet potatoes don't, such as potassium. So they're both equally just as good for you. However, potatoes are more diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. One more for you. Chicken breast or steak?
Oh, once again, chicken's more versatile. I love chicken, but steak, no. I would say chicken because it's versatility, but steak's better.
If I could afford steak all the time, I'd be a steak fan. I actually personally, they've got a higher nutritional density than what chicken does.
100%.
So this is why a lot of the carnivores
and they're good for you guys. They're good for you. Don't you fucking be told otherwise, all right?
Steaks are good for you.
They're good for you. Saturated fat's needed for hormone production. Do not look at saturated fat as a bad thing. Just don't have too much of it.
Just don't overconsume it like everything else. We want to know your guys' comments in here. Just obviously debate in the comments. You can put literally say like a lemon versus an apple. What would you go for? An apple. But you can put that in the comments. I want to hear some food debates here because I think there's some big ones. Okay, brekkie. Let's go. While we're on a roll here. Breakfast, cereal or baked good?
Cereal.
Why?
More nutrients.
What kind of cereal?
At the moment it's oats, but Weetabix. I love Weetabix. I had anemia when I was younger.
Did you?
So before I joined the Marines, I had anemia. Obviously, it affected my application because I was feeling drained, and I was like, "Why am I feeling drained? This is not good." And then my mum took me to the doctors, got a blood test, found out my iron was low. I got given iron tablets, started taking them, but at the time I didn't like having taken something. I was like, if I take this now, I'm going to be dependent on it, which is not the case. But I threw the tablets away. and I decided to look at nutrition to try and fix it. Weetabix has iron added, so I went for that option because it's fortified, and it resolved my anemia just by eating Weetabix.
Wow.
Because it fortified with iron. It actually worked, and I ever since then I've viewed Weetabix as a food that helps me.
Like godsend of a food.
Yeah, so
But
that is the godsend.
this is an interesting point, and we'll wrap up after this, but this is an interesting point. If you have a good experience with a certain food group, you almost put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Like for you, you'd probably put Weetabix on a pedestal because of that experience with it.
It should be on a pedestal. It is elite. It's elite. With a bit of sugar on top. It has to have sugar on top. You need that. Yeah?
But I tell you what, I'd put broccoli on a pedestal. Broccoli for me changed.
Broccoli on Weetabix as well.
Broccoli, no, broccoli on Weetabix. Could you be some
bacon in a blender.
Oh, don't even
Shake away.
But like, yeah, I'd put broccoli on a pedestal because I've had good experiences and feeling great when I have foods like that. Spinach, the same. Like the superfoods making me feel great. And a lot of people associate their emotions with food. And we've said this before. I think a lot of the people that are bullshitting on social media are putting their emotions into the food that people are consuming and then portraying that across to drive, obviously, social media views. Just an interesting point I wanted to give there.
So make sure you have Weetabix. Make sure you have
broccoli on your
croissants.
Weetabix.
Make sure you have they're the healthiest foods you can have. Don't have anything else, otherwise you just die.
Just eat that or you're going to die. Yes.
Die.
Anyway, guys, thank you for watching the podcast today. We really appreciate you guys. If you haven't signed up for our offer, we are currently offering 2 months free for our group coaching offer. You get 1 month free if you pay up front and the other month if you refer someone on board as well. So make sure to sign up for us now. We've got limited spaces available going into March. Yes, March. So make sure to sign up now. We really appreciate you guys watching this. Make sure to leave a sub, make sure to leave a like, and make sure to drop us a review on Spotify. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll catch you later.